Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever noticed how a cluttered room makes it harder to breathe, harder to think, harder to feel at peace? Now imagine if life itself, our memories, our emotions, our possessions, becomes just as cluttered. The truth is, the weight we carry isn't always physical. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's mental, and sometimes it's the things we hold onto long after their purpose has been served. Decluttering your life is not just about cleaning your closet. It's about curating the story you leave behind, your legacy. So today, let's explore 4 key ways to do this. Together, before we begin, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any video. Number 1, decluttering physical spaces. Make room for what matters. Imagine walking into a room filled with boxes stacked high, drawers stuffed with things you haven't touched in years, and shelves covered with items you barely remember buying. At first glance, it might feel like comfort, like memories you've kept safe. But if you look closer, the truth often reveals itself. Most of those things aren't treasures, they're simply objects that weigh you down. Physical clutter is more than just stuff lying around. It's a silent thief of peace, energy, and clarity. And when you carry it with you year after year, it begins to blur the lines between what really matters and what doesn't. For many seniors, the thought of parting with belongings can feel overwhelming. These objects are tied to years of living, milestones reached, and people loved. But here's the important shift. Decluttering isn't about stripping away your identity or erasing your past. It's about carefully choosing what represents you best, what tells your story in the clearest way, and what will bring meaning to those who come after you. In other words, it's not about losing, it's about curating. Think of a photo album filled with snapshots of birthdays, weddings, and family vacations. Those pictures carry laughter, stories, and emotions. Compare that with a drawer of random gadgets, half-broken trinkets, or clothes that haven't been worn in 20 years. One set preserves your story, the other simply takes up space. When you choose to keep the photo album and let go of the drawer, you're making room for what truly matters. You're highlighting the pieces of your life that carry real value. There's also something liberating about walking into a space where everything around you has meaning. Imagine waking up to a room where every picture on the wall, every book on the shelf, every item on the dresser reminds you of joy, accomplishment, or love. No more dusting around piles of things you no longer need. No more searching through clutter for the one thing that matters. Instead, your environment becomes a reflection of who you are today, not just a storage unit for who you once were. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. A shirt you wore 20 years ago may remind you of a special day, but perhaps a photo of that day will preserve the memory far better, and in a way that your children or grandchildren can appreciate, too. Instead of leaving behind closets full of clothes that hold little meaning for anyone else, why not leave behind carefully chosen items that come with a story? A watch that saw decades of work and milestones, a piece of jewelry with a story of love, or a handwritten note tucked away with a recipe. These become treasures because they tell the truth of your life. Decluttering physical space also allows for more freedom, not just for the future but in the present moment. Every item in your home requires a little of your time and energy. It needs to be cleaned, maintained, or moved around. By reducing what you own, you reduce the noise in your daily life. You simplify. And in that simplicity, you gain more energy for the people, the activities, and the passions that bring joy. It can help to approach decluttering as storytelling. Ask yourself, what story do I want my home to tell? Is it the story of a life lived fully, with highlights captured in meaningful objects and photos? Or is it the story of endless piles of forgotten things with no explanation behind them? By choosing what stays, you're writing that story intentionally. And when the time comes to pass your belongings to others, your children and grandchildren won't be left sorting through endless boxes. Instead, they'll be handed a clear, beautiful narrative of your life. A legacy of objects chosen with love and purpose. Of course, the process doesn't have to happen all at once. It can begin with one drawer, one shelf, or one closet. Start small. Ask yourself whether an item adds to your peace, whether it holds a story worth telling, or whether it simply takes up space. Little by little, you'll feel the difference. Your rooms will feel lighter, your mind clearer, and your heart freer. Decluttering physical spaces is really about making room for what matters most. It's about choosing quality over quantity, meaning over mess, and stories over stuff. The things we leave behind are not just objects. They're messages, markers of who we were and what we valued. When you let go of the excess, you make space for the treasures to shine. And those treasures, carefully chosen, will tell your story more powerfully than a house full of clutter ever could. Number 2. Decluttering mental spaces, freeing your mind. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a desk that has been left unattended for years. Papers are stacked in uneven piles, sticky notes are scattered everywhere, pens without caps are leaking ink, and important documents are buried so deep you can't even remember where they are. Trying to work at that desk feels almost impossible, because the clutter around you keeps pulling your focus in every direction. Now, think of your mind in the same way. Over the years, stories, regrets, and unfinished ideas can pile up, leaving little space for clarity, peace, or creativity. Decluttering your mental space is about cleaning off that desk inside your head so you can finally breathe, focus, and live with more freedom. Mental clutter shows up in many forms. Sometimes it's the endless what-ifs that replay in your head about choices you made decades ago. Other times, it's the list of things you think you should have done, but never got around to. It could even be the endless cycle of worries about the future. What will happen to your family, your health, or your finances? All of these thoughts pile up in your mind until it feels too heavy to carry. The truth is, most of these mental notes don't serve you anymore. They are like outdated files sitting in a cabinet, gathering dust, but still taking up precious space. One of the most powerful steps in decluttering your mind is recognizing that you are not required to hold on to every memory, every regret, or every detail of the past. The mind is not a storage unit. It's a living, breathing space meant for growth and reflection. Seniors, in particular, often carry decades of stories, lessons, and experiences. Some of these are invaluable, but others are simply burdens in disguise. Instead of reliving mistakes or replaying old conversations, you can turn those experiences into lessons. For example, maybe you regret a career choice you didn't take. Instead of holding on to that regret, you can frame it as advice for your grandchildren. Don't be afraid to take risks while you're young. That way, what was once a painful thought becomes a meaningful gift of wisdom. Decluttering mentally also means slowing down the constant noise in your head. Many people spend so much time replaying the past or worrying about the future that they forget to live in the present. A cluttered mind robs you of enjoying the simple moments, a walk in the park, a meal with family, or even the quiet joy of reading a book. By choosing to let go of unnecessary thoughts, you create mental room for peace and presence. This doesn't mean ignoring your responsibilities or challenges. It means focusing only on what you can truly influence and allowing yourself to release what you cannot control. Think about the mental space freed up when you decide to stop overthinking. That energy can be redirected toward creativity, connection, and clarity. Maybe you've always wanted to write down your life story, but never had the focus to do it. Maybe you've wanted to try painting, learn something new, or simply spend more quality time with the people you love. A decluttered mind gives you the space to do that. When your mental shelves are cleared, you suddenly have room to add in new, joyful experiences. It can help to think of mental decluttering as a practice, not a one-time event. Just like you wouldn't clean your house once and expect it to stay perfect forever, you can't expect your mind to remain clear without ongoing care. That might mean setting aside quiet moments for reflection, writing down your worries in a journal to release them, or even talking through old memories with a trusted friend so they no longer sit unspoken in your mind. Every small act of release adds up, creating more space for clarity and calm. The most powerful benefit of decluttering your mental space is the gift you give not only to yourself, but also to those around you. When your mind is lighter, your conversations are deeper. When your thoughts are clear, your advice becomes sharper and more meaningful. When you let go of the clutter inside, your presence becomes a source of peace for others. Your children and grandchildren will remember the wisdom you shared, not the worries you carried. Ultimately, freeing your mind is about choosing clarity over chaos. It's about acknowledging that while you cannot rewrite the past, you can reinterpret it and use it as fuel for meaningful stories and lessons. It's about recognizing that the future is uncertain. But today, this moment right now, belongs to you fully if you allow it. Mental clutter may have followed you for years, but it doesn't have to define the years ahead. By clearing out the noise, you create space for peace, for joy, and for the wisdom that will form the heart of your legacy. Number 3, decluttering emotional spaces, letting go of bitterness. Imagine carrying a heavy bag everywhere you go. At first, you don't notice the weight. You adjust, you get used to it, you keep moving. But as the years pass, the bag grows heavier. Inside it are grudges, old arguments, disappointments, and unspoken words. The longer you hold on, the heavier it becomes, until it's not just your shoulders that ache, it's your heart. Emotional clutter works the same way. Bitterness, resentment, and unresolved pain may seem invisible, but they take up space inside you, draining your energy and dimming your joy. Decluttering emotionally means learning to unpack that bag, letting go of what weighs you down, and choosing peace over pain. Bitterness often starts small. Maybe it was a misunderstanding with a friend that was never cleared up. Maybe it was a harsh word spoken by a family member that cut deep and was never followed by an apology. Or maybe it was a life event that left you feeling cheated, overlooked, or betrayed. These experiences, though sometimes decades old, can cling to the heart like shadows. Over time, bitterness grows roots, affecting not only how you see the past, but how you live in the present. You may find yourself replaying moments, imagining what you should have said, or holding on to anger long after the situation is over. The irony is, while you may feel you are holding others accountable by keeping that bitterness alive, the truth is it only punishes you. Letting go does not mean forgetting or excusing. It doesn't mean pretending you weren't hurt. It means acknowledging the pain, understanding it shaped you, and then releasing it so it no longer defines you. Think of it as clearing weeds from a garden. If bitterness is left to grow unchecked, it will choke the flowers, overshadow the beauty, and consume the space where joy could bloom. By pulling out the weeds, you make room for new growth, for moments of love and connection to flourish. Consider a senior who has carried anger toward a sibling for decades over an inheritance dispute. Each holiday, the tension lingers, and even the happiest moments feel incomplete. But when that person finally chooses to release the bitterness, not necessarily by reconciling, but by deciding to stop replaying the pain, they reclaim freedom. The holidays become lighter. Laughter becomes easier. The energy once spent holding on to anger transforms into presence with loved ones. This is the gift of emotional decluttering. You don't erase the past, but you stop letting it steal your present. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools for letting go. Again, forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was right. It's about saying, I refuse to let this weigh me down any longer. Sometimes, forgiveness is directed toward others, but sometimes it's for yourself. Many seniors carry guilt over choices they regret. Words they didn't say, opportunities they missed, mistakes they made. This self-blame can be just as toxic as resentment toward others. Emotional decluttering invites you to offer yourself the same compassion you would extend to someone you love. After all, every mistake is also a lesson, and every regret can be reshaped into wisdom. The beauty of letting go of bitterness is that it doesn't just lighten your own heart. It changes the legacy you leave behind. Imagine how your children or grandchildren will remember you. Would you rather they remember a spirit weighed down by anger, or one that radiated peace, kindness, and acceptance? By releasing old grudges, you show them what true strength looks like. You show them that love is more powerful than resentment, and that peace is a choice you can make at any stage of life. Emotional clutter doesn't clear itself overnight. It's a process. It may begin with writing a letter you never send, speaking words you've held back, or simply making the quiet decision in your heart that you no longer want bitterness as a companion. Each step, no matter how small, lightens the load. And with each release, you create space for joy, laughter, and love to return. In the end, Letting go of bitterness is not about erasing your past. It's about reclaiming your future. It's about choosing to live with a lighter heart, to give yourself permission to experience peace, and to pass on a legacy of love instead of resentment. By decluttering emotionally, you free yourself and those around you from the shadows of old wounds. What remains is a heart open to connection, a spirit unburdened, and a legacy defined not by pain, but by the strength to let go. Number 4. Curating your legacy, passing on stories, not just stuff. Imagine standing in a room filled with every possession you've ever owned. Furniture from different decades, clothes you haven't worn in years, shelves of books, piles of papers, and endless little items collected along the way. Now ask yourself, if someone else were to walk into that room after you're gone, would they know who you truly were? Would they see your values, your joys, your lessons, your spirit, or would they simply see piles of objects with no clear meaning? This is why curating your legacy is so important. It's not about how much you leave behind. It's about how clearly your life's story can be told through the pieces you choose to pass on. Every life is a story, and every story deserves to be remembered. But the truth is, when we leave everything behind without thought, our story becomes buried under clutter. Family members are left guessing what mattered most to us, which objects held value, which memories were the treasures. Curating your legacy means making those choices now, with love and intention, so that what remains is not just stuff, but a meaningful reflection of who you are. Think of the difference between a dusty box of random belongings and a carefully preserved memory book. A box may confuse or overwhelm future generations, but a book filled with photos, notes, and captions becomes a bridge across time. It tells the story of where you came from, what you believed in, and how you lived. Curating your legacy doesn't require wealth or grand gestures. It requires thoughtfulness. It's about highlighting the essence of your journey so others can walk away with not just objects, but wisdom, inspiration, and connection. One powerful way to curate your legacy is through stories. We often underestimate the impact of our personal experiences. A simple story about how you overcame a challenge, how you met your closest friend, or how you built your career could inspire generations more than any physical gift. Writing letters, recording your voice, or even filming short messages can leave behind something timeless. Imagine your grandchildren hearing your own words years from now, learning directly from you instead of just hearing about you from others. That is the heart of legacy. It's not only what you did, but how you made people feel and what you taught them by example. Objects, too, can carry immense meaning when chosen carefully. A well-worn book with notes in the margins, a recipe card written in your handwriting, a piece of jewelry with a story attached. All of these tell your loved ones who you were and what mattered most to you. Instead of leaving everything, curate a few items with intention. Attach a story to each one so they become treasures rather than just things. When you pass on a watch, tell the story of the milestones it marked. When you pass on a photograph, share the laughter or tears behind it. By doing this, you transform objects into symbols of your journey. Curating your legacy also means passing on values, not just possessions. What do you stand for? What lessons have guided you through life? These are the true heirlooms, and they can be shared in many ways. Through conversations, through written reflections, or through the way you live even in your later years. Your family will remember your kindness, your resilience, your generosity far longer than they will remember the couch in your living room. Values outlast possessions because they live in the choices and actions of the people you leave behind. There's a sense of peace that comes from knowing your story is in order. It lifts a weight from you, and it gives clarity to those you love. Instead of leaving them with difficult decisions about what to keep or discard, you offer them a gift, the certainty of knowing exactly what mattered most to you. This act of curating your legacy is a final message of love, saying, "Here is who I was. Here is what I believed. Here is what I hope you carry forward." In the end, curating your legacy is not about holding on tightly. It's about letting go with purpose. It's about choosing the highlights of your journey and sharing them in a way that outlives you. Long after possessions fade, the stories you tell, the wisdom you share, and the love you give will remain. That is the power of a thoughtfully curated legacy. It is not measured in what you leave, but in how deeply you continue to inspire those who follow. Decluttering your life is not about losing, it's about choosing. Choosing what matters most, what deserves to stay, and what will carry your name forward into future generations. Seniors hold the unique power to simplify, clarify, and curate their legacy in a way no one else can. Imagine the gift of leaving behind not just things, but clarity, wisdom, love, and inspiration. That is the true meaning of decluttering your life. It's not about what you remove, it's about what you make space for: peace, connection, and a lasting legacy. Thank you.